everybody to our LTAC meeting for the extra money that's given to us to help spread to applicants. I'd like to start with a roll call. Mary Ledoux.
Here.
Shannon Rubin.
Here.
Pat Runstad.
Here.
George Lee.
Here.
And I'm Rich Hartman. So may I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved in second to approve the meeting agenda. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So as our first meeting, the main goal was for us to actually be able to talk to each other about all the applicants. We had 18 applicants. And we have been asked for $607,105. I'm not sure if that's a record for this supplemental budget, but it's a big dollar amount. When I worked with the city on what's a realistic number that we could award, and they had two numbers. And after looking at the occupancy rates at hotels and the decrease that we're having in revenue, the safe number today was $245,000 for potential awards. And I'll remind the committee, you already know this, you don't have to award any money if you want to postpone and have this money set aside for the fall of 24, we can. But at the same point, our goal is to help Ocean Shores businesses and hotels thrive with these LTAC funds. So I just wanted to let you know that you're in charge. $245,000 is what we should focus on today. And do I have any input from anybody? Anybody want to say anything before we get started?
I do, and I guess this is a question to Sarah. So today we're just talking about all these things. If we go through these 18 applications and we decide that there's some that we're not even going to consider, and we exclude them from the presentation.
You will need to make, at the next meeting, I would say, make a formal motion, award 0, but you can do anything at the next meeting.
Okay, what we didn't want to do is go through 18 presentations
When you already have yep.
Okay.
So I sent an email saying that the applicants would be invited to a follow-up meeting. So it would go with that, whomever you choose to invite based on their application, that's who we'll invite, and we'll notify the other applicants differently.
Okay, thank you.
So as we go through these 18 applicants today, it sounds like the plan would be to have the committee potentially make decisions on which applicants wouldn't go forward for the second meeting for presentations. And by doing so, our second meeting won't, 18 applicants talking to us would take forever, and we wouldn't get much done. So the second meeting now, if you choose to have less applicants come to the second meeting, we could actually make decision as well as to award amounts instead of having a third meeting to do that. So our goal would be to conclude everything on the 22nd and move on with recommendations to council.
I'm wondering if we could consider, as we move forward, these and have this discussion, if you guys could keep in the back of your mind, over $600,000 is being asked for. And I see a lot of incomplete applications. I see a lot of kind of throwing darts at heads and beds and things like that. And so one of the things I did is I looked at the current the contract when they get awarded money. And one of my concerns is that some of these are asking for a lot of money. And I feel like it should be seed money for events, particularly like it should be money that should be like, hey, come into town, get started, and then get going. And like, maybe the following year, but not necessarily like increasing. And definitely like, I feel like there should be a cap, of what seed money actually is. But my bigger concern is there's really nothing in the city contract that talks about like the ramifications if you don't have your event. And so like you're basically giving someone $25,000, and if they fly out of town or don't have their event or have a quarter of what they said they were going to have, there is literally nothing that I could see, unless I'm looking wrong, that would give the city any sort of recourse to try and retrieve that money back. And so one of the things that I'm wondering if we could maybe consider is like, you mentioned less, maybe funding less. I think we should be very, very picky this time. And I think we should kind of like make some very bold statements that I've never heard LTAC say before. Like, you need to quantify heads and beds. If you're asking for re-money, you need to be going to hotels and getting the statistics from them, or proving to us which ones wouldn't give you the statistics by having a list of, I went to the Lighthouse, for example, and Tammy told me she wouldn't give me the numbers. And then to work with maybe the city, and I don't know if this is possible, but to like maybe revamp what's in there so that when you do go to hand out more money, there's actually some teeth in there, and you could make sure that we're protected. Because my concern is with just the huge ask right now, there's not a lot of protection to the city. So that's what I just wanted to kind of throw out there.
Anybody else want to add to that? Ms. Sarah?
Can I add with that, if you guys do talk about that change, that there also be recourse if reporting isn't done? There's nothing in there that there's no ramifications, like Ms. Rubin said, if there's no reporting done, and everybody's supposed to do some type of reporting, whether it be receipts. I can understand if it's like a capital deal or whatever, and there's no heads and beds to report, but there is reporting that's supposed to be done, and I have no recourse. So when we get public records and it looks like I didn't go out and get them, I can't make these people do what they won't do.
And that's a fair point. And I know that I've spoken to Scott, and our goal is to continue to make the application process and the follow-up reporting better. And part of my definition of better is that we do have recourse, that we do have applicants send back their financials. I noticed this time there were 4 applicants that haven't turned in financials on the previous money that you had awarded them. So that, for me, that's not comfortable. It's hard for me to, and there's always this an extenuating circumstance, but it's hard for me to want to award more money to an applicant when they've never reported on the previous award.
Well, and on that, I think really like when you do an event, you should know within 90 to 120 days if your event is successful and be able to provide that report. So I would say that you put a time limit on it, as well as, not just like September of the following year of the year awarded, because let's say the event is in January and they have a successful event, they give us within 120 days the report. There's no reason to wait until September. And I think that that needs to also be looked at. I'm going to use Associated Arts as an example. They had their event in 2023, Labor Day. And so technically by the contract that they signed, it was due at the end of September for the year they were given the money. So if they had their event on Labor Day of 23, then by the end of the month of 23, they should have actually would have had to give a report. And to my knowledge, they have not. So that's an example of what I'm talking about on the loose requirements.
And we will definitely address those, the best that we can, because you're not the only one that's felt that way. Mary, do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I agree. If they're gonna do a reporting, do we want to come up with a form? With specific items they have to fill in, or are we gonna leave it up to them as to what they are reporting back?
We do
There's
have forms for them now, so I'm not going to say that I think the forms are fantastic on what they're asking for, because some of the questions don't even apply to some of the awards.
Mhm.
They do have something now that they should be filling in,
Okay,
and we'll work to make that better. George and Pat, do you guys have anything to say?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
So my question to you now is, I've got 18 applicants. I can literally go through them in order and get comments from you folks, or we could have you folks on the board say which ones you would prefer to postpone awards to, and maybe not award this particular round. It's just a matter of which you would rather do. I can go through all of them, or you guys start naming applicants that you would like to not award money to, and we can get consensus with the rest of the board members. Which way would you like to go?
I think it's faster if you just go through them and then we just say award or discussion. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
All right,
I think award discussion or no.
I'm good with that.
all right, I'm just gonna go in the order that they were sent to me. So we have Accent Marketing with a chili cook-off, May 10th and 11th. George, are they booked already and locked and loaded?
They are booked.
And they paid and?
They have not paid yet.
Okay, but it's not a worry at this point.
No, I'm not worried about it at this point. I do think that this one is very unorganized, and I'm not sure that I would agree to give this one.
Is not very organized?
No, I don't know that I would agree that we should give to this one, so.
Okay,
I'm gonna be a no because they've already gotten money. Didn't they get money last time?
They received money
That-
during the surplus.
that is correct. They received $12,394 in the fall of 23.
So I'm gonna be a no.
That's two. I need one more.
No,
Okay, we'll push this one off. I will ask them too, if they're listening, that we really could use your financials from your last event.
okay.
All right, so the next one will be Art Walk from the Associated Arts of Ocean Shores. They are trying to have an art walk every Friday, first Friday of the month, throughout the year. And they're asking for $10,000, which looks like most of it goes to marketing, to tell the people in Grays Harbor and possibly a little bit outside of Grays Harbor about their members keeping their businesses open till 8 o'clock on Fridays, the first of every month. Do I have any discussion?
I think that this is interesting, but my concern about it is that many of the months that we need business in are rainy months. And so I don't know how you do an art walk in the rainy months. And my concern is that most of the marketing needs to go way outside of Ocean Shores and Grays Harbor. So that would be my comments on it. If we consider it, I don't think that $10,000 is what I'm comfortable with.
do we know from them exactly who's going to be open until 8 o'clock at night?
They have,
A map.
and that
So-
was actually my question too, is that it's a very small map. And so my question was why there's a limited amount of participants and if they went out to other people, just out of curiosity, because we definitely have quite a few more little things along Point Brown than just right there.
To Shannon's point, how are they gonna pull this off in the middle of winter? Or even today? if today was a Friday evening, because it's raining, and walking all through downtown Ocean Shores, as we all know, is a challenge in the summer, let alone in dark in the winter, in the rain.
I appreciate their intent immensely. I also, because we have a lot of applicants that are doing their best to try to attract people to Ocean Shores. I sometimes worry about 10 different organizations putting out 10 different messages with small budgets that make attracting people here harder than if we had one message that focused everyone into coming this way. So do you want to push this one forward, or would you like to consider making a smaller award, or would you like to pass at this point until the next application process in the fall?
I'd like to pass until the next application.
Don't they already do this now?
I don't know the answer to that. Apologize.
I always thought there was an art walk, but maybe I was wrong.
Got two, Pat, what's your instincts, or Mary, what's your instincts?
Yeah, I'd at least pass for now.
Pat, all right. We have the Arts and Crafts Festival, Labor Day weekend from the Associated Arts. I believe we still need financials for the award that was given in the fall from you folks. You did award them $35,000 for this 24 year, and in 22 for 23, you had awarded them $33,000. So the ask now is for $7,000
That would be in addition to what we've already awarded them.
of the $35,000 you awarded them in the fall. Yes.
That's a pass for me.
I'm a hard pass and I'm gonna give you my reasons. In the 23 award, Rod Ash specifically asked them to look at the non-Labor Day weekend, and he was told that they would. The very next, like, as soon as the event was done, they were posting about next year's music. I thought you told them you would look at the following weekend. And that was really poo-pooed in a not very nice manner. And they came in asking for more money. You guys, the previous LTAC board said, no, you're not going to get more. You're going to get this amount. And I feel like this is asking for the delta of what they didn't get. And so for that reason, and also because they did not file the report for last year, I'm a hard pass on this.
I think in addition to that, we don't need to put heads in beds on that weekend. We're
Correct.
Uh, Mary, do you have any?
Yeah.
consensus?
No, I agree with all of that.
So I appreciate the work they did last year. I felt they did a great job. I understand that we are trying to get people here during the off seasons. I also know that it's important that when people do come here, that there's things for them and their families to do. And this is one of the things that people can do to entertain everyone. But I will say, you guys were already very generous offering or
Yeah.
awarding $35,000 already for this, which was an increase from the prior year. So I understand why this would be a pass for now.
Yeah.
George, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay. Thank you. This one is from the City of Ocean Shores Public Works, discussing Wayfair signs. I know that we have a Wayfair sign meeting today. This is a request for $35,000. Input from you members.
Let me start. I think wayfinding signs are very, very important to Ocean Shores, because it is difficult to navigate the 110 miles of road that Ocean Shores has, and a lot of people don't get to see what's available in Ocean Shores. With that said, I'm not sure that this plan is thought out very well. The PowerPoint that they did is something that I put together for the previous two mayors. It was actually approved by Mayor Dingler, then it didn't get moved forward, then talked about by the last mayor, and so now here we are. I would suggest that we table this until after the committee meeting so that we understand what they're trying to do and if they're gonna stick with this or what they're doing. If they've actually priced it, looked at it, bid it out, understand what the actual costs are and who's gonna be available to be on that wayfinding sign. Last I heard it was city only, and if we're using LTAC funds, I don't want it to be a city only wayfinding.
I
Shannon?
agree. I think we need to have more of like, I don't see like hard numbers here, so I agree on postponing it.
I agree.
All HIAC school reunion, they're celebrating their 100th anniversary of the school districts on the North Beach. This is an event for the end of September of 24. Are they booked already, George?
They are,
Okay, and they're booked for 2 days or so?
actually only one day, they went down to one,
1 day, so literally just the 20
just that Saturday, I believe.
Saturday,
Yes.
so that's maybe the 28th.
Yeah, 20.
Yep, 28th, okay.
I'd like them to present. I think that this is, first of all, goes to what we've asked for. They've already booked. It's not on Labor Day weekend. It's not in the summer. And most of these people are much older, probably live out of the area now and will be coming in to use hotel beds. And in general, just because of the history of it and the support that we have with the school district, I think it's important to at least entertain some small amount, even if it's not the full amount.
I will put that in the file for them to return to talk, since,
Yep.
we've got a board member that wants them to present. I think we should honor that even at this one.
Yep.
All right, we have a New Year's Eve event from North Beach Independent Media. I know that they had this event last year. I know that they've sent some basic numbers to Shannon. Have they officially done their financial reporting to you from the city? Okay. So, I believe you folks awarded them 20,000 last year,
Mhm.
and this is a request for New Year's Eve in 24.
Sarah, did we do that in September?
No.
Award the
Mm-mm.
money?
They got the $20,000 in surplus in 2023.
Okay, but they got the money when?
In March
Okay.
for New Year's Eve 2023.
Okay. So my big question is do we have issues booking? Are we full on New Year's Eve? I know we are. Shannon, I don't know about you.
I was fairly full, and the problem I actually have with this event is I was okay with supporting it one time, to kind of see what it did. It got a very slow start, in my opinion, and I gave them 4 rooms. I got 1 booking. The Gray Goal gave them 6 rooms. They got 4 bookings. So essentially, we lost money.
Mhm.
And I don't know what other people did. When I asked for their information, I was given statistics of who booked ticket sales by zip codes. And that's all well and good, but the comment was made to me that it's intrusive to ask why they're booking, and also that they're going to assume that they didn't drink and drive because of their alcohol sales. Those are 2 really big assumptions, and I'm pretty uncomfortable with that. I really, really want to drive in the fact that I have, the Gray Goal has, and I have heard, like Suzanne, when she was at Best Western, there are hotels willing to track whether or not people book for events. And if you're not going to pursue getting those numbers from them, I almost feel like you should be an automatic no, but that's just my opinion.
Mm.
I have a hard time with it just because we didn't get anything off of it that even made us break even.
It's hard for me to endorse a $20,000 New Year Eve party that they're actually generating revenue with, selling drinks with. It's just hard for me to feel good about that.
Since you have awarded them before, do you feel you would like them to come back and present and maybe consider awarding a smaller amount? Or are you folks more in a, we need to pass it this time?
I'm a pass, and I'll tell you because they have a 12,000 something balance, if I remember, from what they got last year. And I feel like they need to probably fundraise or do some other things to be able to make up that residual, if that makes sense. I was fine with trying once. I don't know, like Pat said, they're making money off of it. They, maybe if they promoted it different and sooner, they would have gotten more ticket sales or whatnot. I know it was sold out. They were looking for tickets from us when they came back around to see if there were tickets, and I just don't know. It did pull people from some other areas, but again, I don't know that they weren't already coming to Ocean Shores, or without tracking, it makes it really hard.
I know in my business, when we give folks a deadline, that's, you better have it by then. I know that this deadline hasn't happened yet, but I also, just because it's a deadline doesn't mean that's when you turn in your work. I like what you said earlier about 90 to 120 days. If you're looking for more money, I would have hoped that they would have turned it back into the city a full financial on how their event went, because they were looking for another award and would like to have all their ducks in a row. So I'm just sad that we don't have their full financial at this point officially to the city.
If they have $12,000 in surplus, why would we want to give them 20,000, which is what we gave them last year?
That's why I was wondering if you wanted to consider giving them a reduced amount,
Like $8,000, right?
or 5, or whatever you would want to entertain.
And I don't think we want to kill this thing, because it does give people something to do on New Year's Eve. But I definitely don't think we should fund it 20,000.
I'm fine with entertaining it a little bit further and having a discussion with them. The point I would like to drive home to them is if they get awarded money, they need to start promoting it and marketing it way before December and November. And they need to be ahead of the game and use last year as a learning experience. I'm fine with considering a much lesser amount, but not 20,000, definitely.
So I
I
would like to
agree.
put them in the stack of come back on the 22nd and be here to answer questions. But at the same point, to anyone we put in the stack for the 22nd, if you've received money from the city before, please have your financials in right away, because we need those to help make decisions, ma'am.
Will you maybe say, or would it be appropriate for me to say in the email invitation that their presentation
Absolutely.
will be voided if they haven't turned in their financials by a certain date?
You mean for this next?
Yeah.
Yeah, we would need their financials definitely, well, we've only got 2 weeks right
Yeah.
now anyway, so we need a speak yourself.
Okay.
And to take you've got the form. It asks them the specific questions, just be honest. I have to tell you, for me, I would rather you be honest and say you put 7 people in beds than what I'm seeing now, where some people are saying we put 300 people in beds. I know that's not true, and so right off the bat makes me not want to pass some of these forward. So just be honest with what you know, and telling the truth is always easier for us all to swallow and help you with.
And I'll pull those pages right out of the agreement and just send it directly. That way there's no.
We have an additional request from North Beach Independent Media for a music fest, August 23rd and 24th. It's a request for $20,000. Are they booked at the convention center, sir, for the 23rd?
Yes, they do have the date on hold, but they haven't done anything, because I think they're specifically basing it off of this.
Okay, so your feeling is if no money is awarded, this potentially won't happen.
That's kind of what I believe.
Okay. So
I have-
let's talk the Music Fest on the 23rd and 24th of August.
George, do you have other September or October dates on a weekend available, or November?
None in September and none in October.
What about November?
November is. None either. Yeah, there's none in November either.
Do you have other people trying for this weekend in August?
I have not yet, but I don't know that it would be that hard to sell. So that if we chose not to do this, I still believe we could.
Educate me, if someone that maybe wanted to rent the convention center for 2 days, well, technically it'd be 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, what do we charge
1,600
per day?
per day. Unless it's multiple, then they get it's 1,400 per day if it's multiple.
Okay, so it's really, really, really expensive.
Really, it is not expensive at all. So,
Okay, all
and
right,
we've upped those prices here, since I took over, they were paying way before that, so.
okay. So let's talk about Music Fest. What's your, do we want them to come back or do we want to pass at this point in time?
What day is Harley weekend?
That's in July. What day in July, George?
That's the last weekend there in July. so
Last whole
it's,
weekend.
Yeah, 26, 27, 28.
Shannon, in August, any week in August, do you have issues booking?
No, and that's my problem with the dates is that, again, we're doing things on weekends that we don't historically have problems booking.
Do you want to consider these for a lesser amount? Or do you want to go on to the next applicant?
I think we would consider it for a different date. But they gotta get ahead of it, and they've had plenty of time to do that, to book it with the convention center on a shoulder season date instead of a peak season.
But I don't think that's possible because they would have to use the funds this year. And from the sounds of it, George doesn't have any other open dates. And so maybe we pass and ask them to reconsider doing something like this in the next funding cycle of LTAC. Does that make sense? Am I wrong on that, Sarah? It would have to be used this year, correct?
Yeah, it's funding in 2024 for 2024.
All right, that says we're passing on this one.
Yep.
Yep. Convention center carpet. George might want to,
Staying out of this.
George might want to close his ears and abstain.
I am staying out.
I'll take the heat for this one. I think the group, because of the amount of money required, is a little scared.
Mhm.
Mary, Shannon, what's your,
I'll take the first stab at this. I'd like to see, a little more comprehensive bid, maybe from 3 different vendors. And then also broke down by room. So that perhaps there's some possibilities to take something out of one room and reuse it in another room. Or recarpet the worst part and save it $200,000, it's a ton of money. And your bid is 160, and I assume that the 40 was for contingencies.
The 40 was for the extra, that's where we ran up against now is 20 years ago when that carpet was installed, we bought extra squares. So, you know, the 160 does not include sales tax, so we took it up, so we would have extra, to replace squares that got damaged or.
How many square feet, carpet are you proposing to replace?
It would be all of it, so it's listed in here, so it's 380, then there is. So it's about 22,000 square feet.
Okay,
I'd like to mention that one of the possibilities here, again, because of our reduced amount of money available for awards, is we could consider, after we look at all 18 applicants, that maybe we consider giving the convention center some money for their capital facilities or capital projects fund that would at least help with this, maybe not all of it, but I'd like for you folks to consider that we do something for them, even if it was a very small amount.
I have a few I have a question and then a few comments based on my question. George, when the city uses, let's say, the convention center for city council, what do they pay for that?
That one is, it's based off of, how long they're there, so it's 600 on that one.
600. And then like if Shannon was gonna use it on a Tuesday night, what do I pay for it?
It would be the same thing.
About the same, okay. So I don't have a hard time funding some of it. I have a hard time with the lack of 3 bids, like Pat said. And I would like to find out from legal counsel if there's any reason we can't do the work ourselves. It's carpet squares, not rolls of carpet, so it's much easier to put down yourself. We do it all the time at our hotel. And your direct price from Mohawk is $23.24 a square yard for the exact same carpet versus $54.94 a square yard of what you were bid. And so that's $75,446 difference just in that cost right there. So personally, I would be hard pressed to fund anything more than what I know the carpet costs, because the labor, I feel like what they're putting into the labor is just insane. And I know that there's prevailing wages and things like that, but you're talking about a $75,000 difference. And I don't know if you would see something different if you had 3 bids or not. We don't have 3 bids to compare it. But I do like Pat's idea, if we have to have it installed, of breaking it down by room and whatnot. But again, I know what it costs because I reached out to Mohawk directly and asked if I were to buy the carpet, what it costs. And we have an account with Mohawk, so it's not hard to get an account with Mohawk.
I will put this in the reconsider on the 22nd, so we can move on. And then you folks can decide what direction to go next meeting.
Yep.
We have next, the senior center playground equipment, Ocean Shores Lions Club. This is, appears to be the balance necessary to finish the playground equipment project. They did receive ARPA funds for some of the project, and I believe they're looking for the balance so they can complete the project. This is again one of those things, we can't say it puts heads in beds, but it certainly helps keep mom and dad and kids here while they're here. So it helps with couples and their family have more fun at Ocean Shores, but you can't really say it puts heads in beds. So what do we think here, folks?
How is public access to it? Do they have unfettered access, or is it a process to go through to get into?
No, it's right outside, right in front.
So anybody can go there anytime?
Anybody can go there at any time.
I'm
I think
okay
it's
with,
important.
Okay, I'll put it in the, oh, you're on mute, Shannon.
I don't mind having a discussion about it, but I do think if I heard correctly, when they asked for the ARPA funds, they said that they would make some changes and that they knew that they would have to make do with what they got. So I didn't myself listen to that meeting, so I'm not 100% sure, but I would like to at least ask that question, because I just feel like if you say you're going to do something, you need to do it, but I do see value in it. So it's a hard decision. It's not gonna put a head in bed, but when people are having their little craft fairs and things like that, there are kids playing on it, and it is very accessible for even local children to play on. So, I mean, I'm really mixed on that one.
Ma'am,
So, this will be another question to legal on the Lions Club, because when they went for ARPA money, we specifically asked legal, because in their lease agreement, they're required to maintain all the equipment that was put there, and it was not maintained. And at that time, our legal said, you probably shouldn't, because you have this, and now you're setting a standard, but because it was ARPA, it was a different ball of money. So because this is
Okay.
LTAC and didn't have had to be, obligated and expended and all of that, I don't know that you're gonna be able to, with our agreement, our lease
Okay.
agreement,
I
use
would
this.
I'd like the legal clarification because I understand what Sarah's saying. If it's in their lease agreement that they're maintaining it, and I would preference that if he does come back and say that we could consider it, then I think there needs to be something again with teeth about what happens if they don't maintain the money, the things that we're giving them money to purchase. So that's and I believe that you could alter, maybe Sarah could ask, because I think on the agreement I saw you could add other things to it. So when they got awarded money, that might need to be an addendum that if they're getting this for equipment, that they have a maintenance to maintain it, or something like that, so that we're also protected that way.
so I'll put it in the consider on the 22nd after the city gets back the information on legal.
Yes.
Okay, Marketing Coalition, Ocean Shores Marketing Coalition, Jason Mearsman. So this is a new group that has a sole mission of attracting people to Ocean Shores to spend the night, spend the day, spend the holidays. I know that you awarded them money in the past to get started, and this looks like it's an additional request, because after they've done their due diligence for them to actually accomplish the goals, they figured out they actually need a bigger budget to actually help start promoting Ocean Shores. I'll let the group take over.
So if I could just make a couple comments, because before I removed myself from that coalition, I was familiar with what they were doing. My understanding, when they went out for the money, we had a generic idea of what it might cost. And in really talking about what we saw as Ocean Shores' as future and how we wanted to distinguish ourselves, I used my maintenance guy as an example. He's from Copalis. He grew up here. And I was talking about Westport's marketing and how they're just killing it on marketing. And he was like, why would anyone want to go to Westport? And I was like, well, you grew up here, so you kind of know, but let's go look at their Facebook page. And so we went and looked at their Facebook page, and he was like, oh my God, if I had never been to Westport, I would be totally inclined to go there. And so that was kind of, one of the things that we discussed as a group is like, how do we get that social media presence and get, people from different zip codes out here and just be noticed more like Seabrook is and like Westport is and whatnot. And so in looking at their proposal, it looks like they went out to the company that got Westport on the map, and it came in considerably more. I know from my short time on it, it's a group of volunteers, not to throw Steve Buck under the bus or anything like that, but just him as an example. Steve he has the movie theater and he has Buck Electric. He's not a marketing expert. And you have a lot of people doing their best that they can as a coalition, but it's no one's forte. So they really need the money, I think, and Ocean Shores needs the money to have someone where it's their forte to be marketing. And I think it's a small request when you look at what people actually use in marketing. Pat, what do you spend a year in marketing?
Boyhead spends about 150,000 plus a year.
Yeah, and I spend about 25,000 as a small property, so I really think that if you look at Experience Ocean Shores on Facebook, which is just what they've started, I think it's really something we need to consider. We really need to have a strong marketing presence because I don't think, and I could be wrong, so George, please correct me. I don't see very many active posts from the city other than like the festivals that are coming up. So I don't know that the city is marketing itself or the, you know, these type events. And this is more comprehensive for the whole entire city. So I think it is something that should be considered.
Yeah, we are, like I said, we do a lot on the festivals, you're exactly right, but we are also marketing, we've got some print, like the Here and Now and the different things like that, so we are marketing. We just, on the South Sound Magazine, Best Family Vacation Place to Go. So we have an article coming out of there, so I mean, we are doing our marketing, it may not be as much as we should be doing by any means.
Well, to give you an idea, I believe the business that I'm a partner with in Aberdeen spend about 400,000 a year.
Right.
So this request, in my opinion, still isn't what's going to be necessary for the future to actually do a real marketing campaign for this surrounding area, but it's a start. I'm going to assume I can put it in the come back on the 22nd file.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I should probably have somebody else read this next one.
Come on.
The Ocean Shores Parks and Conservation Foundation, which is the nonprofit arm for helping to fund parks projects. Mrs. Hartman is asking to produce trifold maps that would be delivered to the hotels and also convention center that describe and show on a map all of the city assets of parks, golf course, beach approaches, anything to do with something that a tourist might want to know about, fresh waterways, obviously. The request is for $5,000, some change. Group? Give me direction.
I'd like to consider it. I think it's worthwhile. We get asked all the time and I have to draw like my own little maps or go to Google Maps and print it for them. And it's really difficult. So I think it would be something, it's not going to put a head in bed, but it might enhance their stay and keep them from getting bored. Because that's one thing with teenagers. Once you go do the very obvious things like bumper cars and things like that, they can get bored pretty easily. So I think that might be good. The only thing I would like maybe them to make sure, because I saw in here really when I was glancing at that it talked about trails. I remember many years ago, and I don't know if this is true, something about the way the Weather Wax Trail is set up that we can't directly advertise for it. And so I would like clarification on that, because if it can be in the map, I think it's useful. But if it would violate some sort of agreement that we have about the conservation of that area, then we need to be careful of that. But it is something I personally would like to consider. But again, with the caveat is I realize that it's not going to necessarily put a head in a bed. It's just going to enhance an experience and make it easier for people to not have to draw maps.
So
I agree.
does doing a trifold constitute advertising the weather wax? Seems to me.
So we looked into this. We looked into this a few months ago, when the Coastal Interpretive Center was doing something, and at that time, the advertising on it is just worded different, and it's for monetary purposes typically. I'll still have legal look at it and give you an actual answer, but I don't think that we wouldn't be able to put the weather wax in this trifold because we're not, monetarily benefiting from its advertisement. It's just an amenity. So
So what about the High Dunes Trail, that could be added to it?
the High Dunes Trail will already be on it, and I sure that, Kristen already knows, but when I designed the sign that's going at the High Dunes Trail, there's a 3 big sign thing. There's actually going to be a spot specific for pamphlets of all of the places. So you go to the High Dune Trail, you can grab that, you're at the High Dune Trail, and then here's all the other ones. So,
Okay,
How's that gonna work in the weather?
they have, it has the, plexiglass.
Capping?
Yeah, and the signs themselves also have an overhang.
Mary, are you okay with putting this in the consider file for the 22nd?
Yeah, absolutely.
George? Ocean Shores selfie scene, from Janet Needham. So this is a request for production of selfie spots in our city for people to take selfie pictures in front of.
So I would be a no on this for 2 reasons. I feel like, again, what you commented, things going like more comprehensive. I feel like all these little subgroups are kind of convoluting what the main message is. And so that is concerning to me. And I also, again, I'm a little removed from Ocean Shores right now, and I don't know all the politics, but I believe that she was trying to get an urgent care or some sort of medical there. And I feel like that would be a far greater need for, I mean, maybe she's very talented and could focus on 2 things, but it just seems to me that selfies is the least of our importance right now. And maybe in the future, but not right now. I think we need to get a handle on what we're doing right now.
Barry, do you have any input?
It was definitely something I was not real thrilled on, nor did I think was going to directly impact, as far as marketing goes, Ocean Shores or anything, so I would pass on it.
Gentlemen?
Pass on it.
Okay. This was interesting to me. The Greater Renton Chamber of Commerce is asking for $70,600 to produce luau's and concerts at the Polynesian Resort. I know that there's already been a couple of events. I've heard that they went well. So I'm not really sure what the Renton Chamber of Commerce is doing, asking Ocean Shores LTAC for money. I'm a little bit confused, I will be honest with you. Do you folks have any input or any knowledge I don't have?
hard pass for me.
That was a very long discussion.
Yeah,
Ladies on screen.
Would you like an answer to your question about the affiliation with Renton? Because I know, but I don't also, like, it puts me in a precarious situation. Because they're my neighbors, so I don't want to be like,
Okay, then abstain, but give us your, or I mean, what I mean to say is, don't say something that,
well, the correlation would be one of the owners is on the Renton, is the director of Renton. Why they opted to do it through Renton, I can't speak to, but the correlation is one of the owners and board members is affiliated with the Renton Chamber of Commerce.
okay. Is your instinct to postpone this or to reconsider it on the 22nd?
My instinct is that I appreciate what they're trying to do, but I have some, first of all, the application wasn't completely filled out correctly. I know it's being nitpicky, but the amount requested isn't filled in. But also, if the first one was successful, then, I guess it's going to be similar to Harbor Havoc. Like, if you're already doing them, why do you need more money? And then the part of the ask is for concerts in the summer, which again goes to Pat's discussion about summer need of concerts, and it's being held at the Polynesian. So, I mean, to me, it's kind of like Pat doing an application for his event center. I'm having a little bit of a hard time with it, but I will consider if you guys want to move it forward, having a more discussion or having them present it, but
George
feel
and
like-
Mary, do you, what do you
I
feel?
would have said to pass on it myself.
There we go. Thank you. Apologies to Renton Chamber of Commerce, but we'll move on. Rogue Wrestling Attractions, they do wrestling matches. Have they booked the 22nd of?
Yes.
Okay, is it a full weekend?
No, it's one night.
Just one night?
This one.
I know they're already doing events here. I hear that they've gone well. Do you have any knowledge for us, George?
You know, I will say that when he first started doing them, he was doing them in midweek, which is where we want him to be, but he was getting no traction from them. So as soon as he moved them to the weekends, he started to get, the last turnout on this last one was actually pretty good. There's probably 350 there. You know, my only question on this application is are we awarding money going back from something that's already happened?
Right.
That's what he's asking for, so I don't know that.
And that's something Shannon's brought up. I have a question that's really kind of off the books here, though.
Yeah.
I heard from you that you don't really have a lot of space on that calendar.
Correct.
And so how are we as a city managing that space? Please, I'm not picking on a wrestling match that's been successful. I'm just using it as an example. We have 7 days in a week and we're booking the Saturday for a full weekend. So we got, apparently we sold the room for what, $1,600 or what? But it kills our Friday and Sunday.
It does.
Kills the whole weekend. At what point has any advice that you've been given or anything that you've learned over the last years, when do you start, do you ever start saying no to one-day events? What's the?
We do, and we just had that instance come up, and what we're doing is we called one of our clients, that was a 2-day event. And asked them to change their dates, you know, obviously we'll give them some kind of a break on change their dates because we had a larger group that wanted to come in for 4 days. So, I mean, that's kind of how we're handling that. A lot of them are so grandfathered in that, you know, slowly but surely, we're kind of trying to weed them out because we'd much rather have a 3-day sale than a 1-day. So,
Right.
so we are working on trying to, you know, to get those 1 days out of here. As you can see, most of the weekends on the calendar are 3-day events. I mean, we do have some 1-day events like the wrestling and stuff, but.
If someone wanted to, well, again, I don't mean to be, I'm not trying to pick on Rogue Wrestling. At what point do you just say, hey, Rogue, absolutely, we want to host you, but you need to buy the whole weekend, even though you're only gonna be here Saturday? Do you ever do that? You're gonna owe us, you know, whatever.
Yeah, we have not yet, at this point, but as we start to build the calendar more in 2025, that's kind of where we're gonna go.
You're gonna have to go. Okay. Sorry, I didn't want to cast anything negative. What's the committee's feeling on, Rogue Wrestling and their matches and the funding for $8,000, which,
16. They're
16.
doing 2 events.
oh, sorry, I just saw under amount requested 8,000, apologies.
Next page.
One of those events, April 6th, did it say? Was it just this weekend?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I just want to go back to what I just said about the Polynesian, because I feel like I would be hypocritical if I didn't do it both ways, or the Renton Chamber of Commerce, sorry. They're already doing these. So it's not seed money. It's, you know, they've already been successful. So I really kind of feel like first, definitely not on the April one, because I don't know how you go back. And then I go back to 6/22 is a summer day. So I again feel like it's not off season. You're already doing them.
Yeah.
I am a no on that, but I'll listen to you guys if you have a different opinion.
George and Mary, Pat?
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I was thinking too about both of these, that they have been doing them for quite a while, so.
Mhm.
You know, why the need for that? And then I was also interested that they were including the April 6th when that was 2 days ago.
So how did that go? April 6th?
Like I said, he had probably one of his best attendances. I know that we do, concessions for that, for the convention center is. And, it was probably one of our better ones. He's actually growing them, so.
Okay, well, I appreciate everything they're doing, I really do. I also appreciate the ask. I mean, a lot of us, if we were doing events, potentially would be doing the ask. But I'm hearing from the group that we would probably not move forward with this one.
I'm actually not gonna
You're gonna
answer
stay?
this one, yes.
Pat?
You know, I would want, if we're gonna consider this, I don't think I'd wanna fund the event that they already did. Consider funding the one that they're gonna do. I just wish they would do it on a different.
May I ask the realities of, it's, no decisions are gonna be made until May. This council has to approve anything this group does. This ask is for the June.
We'll get money.
I'm assuming there's no possible way really of them even being given the money, other than giving it to them in arrears, which is kind of weird to me.
So we would take this to council the first meeting in May, and if they didn't send it back and they approved it, we would send out the documentation, and we cut checks every Friday now, but it's gonna be based on how fast they get the documentation back to the city.
So I have, sounds like I have two nays, one person stepping away because of the conflict. Pat, which pile would you like this in?
I'm only good if we fund what's coming, not what was.
Okay,
Well, maybe we could just, have a discussion with them as to why they need it now and have not needed it previously. I mean, I don't know. I'm mixed on it.
how about this? I will put it in the to consider on the 22nd. How's that?
Yep.
All right.
At least it's at the convention center, so it's more generic, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep, okay, so we have success through sports, Mr. Medico, 3 different events. Jiu-jitsu, I believe a couple of jiu-jitsu matches and a 3x3 basketball event. Ask is for $85,000. Have they booked dates at the convention center?
Yeah, no.
So we have no dates booked. So my first question is, if no dates are booked, how do we even, based on what you're telling me, how do we even have them at the convention center?
Well, I think that this would be a perfect example of what Shannon's talking about here, and I think we actually listen to them. And then have them book those dates on shoulder seasons or midweek or different things, so we could find it during midweek and in the shoulder season, so.
Okay,
Well, I'm completely against giving them $85,000.
so
Oh.
I think 85 is excessive, definitely, but I mean, I think we listen to what they have to say and at least maybe that's something we can push into that midweek, so shoulder season time.
well, midweek would be a home run.
Right.
I just don't know, having had family members that competed and we wandered all over the western United States, midweeks don't happen, in my opinion, for matches like this. It's usually a weekend event.
Right.
Because people are coming from all over the area to attend. So, but I can easily put this in the, to be considered for the 22nd, knowing that the $85,000 isn't probably going to be awarded, but that maybe you are all not a complete no on something. If it's like shoulder season.
I think to what you're saying, George already, I didn't ask him to check December, but when we went through the map previously, all the other shoulders were booked. So unless he has something in December, there's not really a convention center use. I do see on the application, it says North Beach High School as well. I mean, that's not in the city, but they would be booking city hotels. So I guess I would be kind of okay with that. The dollar amount, I'm not. So if we wanted to have him come back and ask, assuming George has nothing on the weekend and that it has to be done on a weekend, what his minimum amount to do it at the high school, if we're willing to do that, would be for one tournament. That might be something I would entertain. And then, you know, asking him if that was successful and he were to pull it off, then try and book at the convention center for 2025, you know, on weekend events where you could be doing the 2-day tournaments and whatnot. I think the goal is to use the convention center versus these auxiliary places. And so I think that that's important. But if we want to try and work with him or at least hear him out, I'm willing to do that. But this ask is one of the reasons I asked about, you know, like some of us know Mr. Lemenico, some of us don't. I'm not picking on him. Some of us know the applicants, some of us don't. But what happens if we give money and then nothing comes to fruition? So we definitely need a resolve to that, especially with asks like this. And I just want to find out what the bare minimum he could pull something off if we're comfortable as a collective group, realizing that the first time probably would not be able to be at the convention center if it's needed to be on weekends.
So I will put it into the consider on the 22nd. He would come back to present or answer questions, but needs to know up front that the $85,000 isn't reasonable, probably based on the budget that we've got right now. If 11% is possible, then he can come present.
Does he need to have a date picked so that we know he's actually gonna do this before we would say we're gonna give you the money?
You know, I have not met the gentleman, and just going by my instincts from my families, there's gonna be a lot of coordination. I'm going to assume he's gonna have to coordinate with the jujitsu foundation, I don't wanna say foundation, but that group, because it looks to me like the whole goal is to bring this organization to Ocean Shores at least annually to do events, which I love the idea. It's just, it's gonna take a little bit of work, and without dates already booked, this is a work in progress. This might be something that needs 25 for him.
Maybe when we're communicating out that it's not, would not be the 85, that's something that we could also communicate out, that we would like to find out what the potential dates would be for one of them. Acknowledging the fact that, George, did you confirm you have nothing in December?
There is one available in December. It would
Okay.
be the end of December, so, and that's gonna be a hard one for anybody to book, because it is 2 days after Christmas, so I doubt that's
Yeah.
going to work out.
So I think we would have to be realistic that it would not be at the convention center likely, and that based on that, we would like him to understand that if we were to fund one, you know, by using the high school or wherever he would put it, what proposed dates are we looking at? Because again, I think I'm more comfortable with having proposed dates and knowing that if something doesn't come to fruition, we have some recourse.
Have you had any discussions with him yet, George? Okay, so he hasn't even tried to coordinate with the convention center at this point.
You know, I seriously think we should just kick it out and tell them to come back next year with firm dates, firm plan, firm everything. We just don't have that kind of money, and 25,000 of that's for mats. You know,
Yeah.
so it's like, you know, for this year, too little, too late. And I feel like he can come back at us next year and see what he can come up with something a little more. I just don't feel like we should waste our time.
Okay, what do you other three feel about that?
I'm gonna respect Pat's decision on that, but if we do say that to him, I would hope that we could say it in a manner that does not discourage him. And that we are very explicit that this is the type of thing that will put heads in beds, because there's no doubt that it will put heads in beds. But that it needs to be probably less of an ask with firm dates and a comprehensive plan for the 2025 year. And that would be understanding, Sarah, when do they usually get funding for 2025? Like what-
In January,
In January?
yeah. So if
Okay.
they're working in 2024, they get I start sending everything out the first week of January.
So then he should be looking at March or February, March, April, spring break, the end of September, October, November, and going to George and seeing what dates he has. And, I don't know, maybe putting holds on things so that he could do a comprehensive proposal. Because again, I don't want to take it away from him, because this does put heads in beds. Sporting groups like this and tournaments do.
And also have some coordination with the jujitsu organization to make sure that they're actually gonna sanction this event and wanna be a part of it.
So does that mean we're going to?
So. That's one other person. I need Mary or George to give me directions so that we can put this in the,
I would have a tendency, like I said, I think if we could get it in the convention center, obviously I'm speaking for the convention center.
Sure.
I think it'd be a great thing, but I kind of agree with Shannon that if we moved it into 2025, that would be the best direction to go, so we can find dates for it.
okay, then I'm gonna retire it over here and we'll communicate. He'll know direction.
Yeah.
I have something from the Perfect Tide. It's for video and blogs. It's a $12,000 request. The note that I had on there was how they coordinated with a marketing coalition. That was the only note that I had. Do any of you know much about this?
I will
I
speak a little bit to it real quick. She did a cooking demo for Razor Plant Festival. She does do a couple of Seattle evening magazine, promos and stuff, and cooking razor clams and different things like that. And the videos and stuff that she did were great, but I mean, I don't know that they're gonna get out there and do what she's wanting to do, so.
So for reference, we'll bring in bloggers to Way Hut and they'll do a comprehensive thing that'll get 15 to 20,000 impressions, and all we pay them, we don't pay them, we give them an overnight stay and comp them some meals. So to me, this is a lot of money for blogs. I don't mean to be the negative guy,
I mean, I agree with
but
you.
I'm just trying to be reasonable.
I agree with Pat, from my experience as well. And, being that her whole soap focus is on seafood recipes and cooking. I really feel like if, she will, I feel like maybe her going to the marketing coalition and saying, I could do this as a feature type thing for you. And have one of them and see if they want to pay for it. That might be one way. My other concern is that in the proposal, it's talking about responding to tourists with information and things like that. This is again another thing similar to the selfie thing, similar to what we're already doing, where there's already so many of these Facebook posts and blogs, and you're getting a lot of different information from a lot of people who are not coordinated experts. And my concern is sending out the same message and not being biased in any way to exclude anyone. So like if someone's asking for where should I stay that allows a dog? You need to be making sure that you have a response that indicates all pet friendly accommodations and not just, oh, the Canterbury Inn or the Grey Gull because it's what you thought of first when you're responding to the blog comment. So again, I just feel like this is definitely cool. And she's in, I think it's like one of the coastal magazines. I saw it posted, and I really like what she does. I just think it needs to go through the marketing coalition if there's a need that way, based on what Pat said about what we pay for blogs and things like that.
Mary, do you have any background here?
No, I agree with that. I didn't, looking at it, didn't see how it would actually get to that many people. And again, yeah, that it was just kind of a alone on its own, and it would be better to be coordinated with some other group.
So I would encourage Susie to work with the marketing coalition for sure. I'll put that in the future pile. On to the next one, Vegas Nights. It's concert and gaming for the Memorial Day weekend. These folks already booked.
Yeah.
Okay. Rock and Blues Flea Market Festival, they're asking for $5,000. George, do you know much about this to help us?
I do not.
Okay.
They haven't, I mean, they've got some details in here, but
Right.
so far this is a new event for them, so there's really not a whole lot at this point in time.
Okay, and they booked the entire weekend of Memorial Day?
It's-
Okay. Pat, Mary, Shannon?
The only issue I have, again, it's, we don't need to put that, or need to put heads in beds on Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July. And really for 3 months in the summer it's just not something that we need. Now, this gives people something to do, but I don't know. I'm a little bit hesitant to do this, but I'm not saying no.
Shannon, Mary?
That's kind of how I was feeling. I wasn't quite sure. Didn't realize it was their first year of doing it. I know it is the Memorial Day weekend. It's going to be packed down there anyway. But if there was nothing going on that weekend, this certainly would give all those people that are there, you know, something to talk about and things to do.
So, I have a complete issue with the dates again. However, he is not asking for a lot of money. And so I don't mind perhaps listening to him and considering his very small ask. I don't even know if I'm comfortable with 5,000, but considering, you know, maybe a couple thousand, I would consider if he had a good reason why he now needs it when he already has it booked. But the other thing, you know, like, because I don't know who this is and I don't know him, I don't know if maybe if he saw that this was successful, if there would be any way to sway him and make him understand that we need you to be doing this on other dates. So that's just my comments on it. And it is one of the most lacking applications, though, I will say.
Put it in there.
Okay, we'll put it to consider on the 22nd.
Mhm.
And our final request is from the VFW Post in Ocean Shores. They're having a golf tournament the 14th of September. I know they already have it booked. I know they've done it in the past. I know that you have awarded them money in the past. I don't know if they've ever turned in a financial.
This one I have to double check on because I only looked at Associated Arts aside from the ones, and I want to say that they did turn in paperwork,
Okay,
but I can't, not with certainty.
and you folks awarded them money in 23, so that would have been fall of 23 for the year of 24. So you've already given them $5,000 for the 24 calendar year. But I know they went out and bought a golf cart. and they want to raffle that off. So I'm guessing the $5,500 probably coincides with the fact that they spent $5,500 on a golf cart that they probably hadn't thought about during the original request. But this would take your commitment to them up to $10,500 for the year of 2024.
I believe they got their money surplus 2023.
Surplus 20.
So March
Okay.
23, because they used it for their event that they had
Okay,
in 23.
all right, that doesn't describe that to me, so apologies. All right, forget it, they're asking for $5,500 for their event for 2024. They have booked it, it is in September. They do have, I asked if they had done the paperwork with the state for the lottery for the raffle for the golf cart. I was told yes by one of their members. So they've done some due diligence. Group, what's your feeling
So-
about it?
I have a comment and then I'm gonna abstain from discussing this one because I did not know I was being listed as the host hotel. And I am uncomfortable with that, because I think there should be other hotels. But my only comment is I think the number of participants is a little high. I don't think you're gonna have 300 golf participants.
No, I did find that out. They range between 40 and 80 golfers in the past. They are working hard to increase that.
And so that was my comment on that. But I do want to give them kudos for picking a date that is not in the summer. So, but I'm going to abstain just because I'm listed. I didn't have a conversation with them. And we've always supported the VFW in everything they've done with the wall and whatnot, so maybe it was just natural for them to put me on there, but just because I saw my name on there as the host hotel, I don't want to vote on it.
Mary, George, Pat?
I'm okay with it. I think, yeah, it is a good date in September, when everybody's done and, it's not that much money. I would be in favor of it.
Okay, I will not continue to ask questions. I'll put it in the pile to have them come on the 22nd and be available to answer questions.
Okay.
That is the last of the applications. Group, do you have any follow-up that you want to talk about?
I just was wondering when Sarah goes back to the people that we're not going to hear and things like that. I mean, I don't want to, everyone put a lot of effort
Mhm.
into this and I'm not going to try and, poo-poo that or be negative. I mean, even the Renton Chamber of Commerce, I don't know why it's through Renton and not like the people doing the show itself. But with that caveat aside, like, yeah, that kind of stuff does put heads in beds, but I think we need to be very specific and say, we need you to put heads in beds on off season using the convention center primarily for that. Because I think that is the goal, unless I'm wrong, and I really want to encourage people to continue to apply and not have them feel discouraged. So I think we need to, be very specific that it's nothing personal. It's not your event. It's not, but we need off-season convention center bookings and definitely off-season, and not middle of the summer. And that it's seed money, because that's where I'm getting stuck. I've heard for 8 years before I ever got on this. And as you all know, I applied 3 times to be on LTAC. I'm tired of hearing about like, oh, we need the money to get started. And then people come in and they ask like for $10,000, $15,000 more. Like, it's supposed to be seed money. It is not supposed to fund your event, because if it's supposed to fund the event, the thing I'm going to say is, I'd rather just give George all my money and have George do events on the off season, because if it's going to fund your event, it just needs to be seed money. Otherwise it needs to not be like that. That's my
Very-
soapbox.
Mhm.
Mary, do you have any closing comments?
No, I was gonna say the same thing. I would like for everybody to know, why they were not being considered right now, and so that they can make adjustments and possibly get the money later if they need it, but at least they would understand.
I think it's important that the message goes back to the people that we said no to out of hand, that they need to come with a realistic proposal instead of these pie in the sky things that just don't make any sense. So somehow come up with a realistic business proposal that makes sense, that dates that help Ocean Shores get a little busier during the shoulder season. And to make sure that, you know, we're not gonna spend $25,000 for jujitsu mats. We're not going to, you know, do something things. Well, so, you know, if they come to you and ask for $5,000 to do something like that, that's great, but $25,000. Yes. It's gotta make sense. That's what I would just encourage them to do. We don't wanna discourage people from coming, but when you come at us with a realistic proposal.
George,
I'm good.
you sure?
I'm good.
Oh.
I just want to talk more about carpet.
Maybe if the scores were smaller, they'd be less expensive.
They are small.
I just want to thank this group, and I especially want to thank Sarah for my multiple personalities and trying to get through this. It's my first time ever. And I've tried to listen to board members in the past about things that made them uncomfortable. So we obviously have changed the format a bit. I appreciate the last minute changes that we make and the flexibility you've all shown me and Sarah. Again, I can't thank you enough for literally putting up with my back and forth, but I really like this process today. I love the back and forth that you've had. I'm not sure you've all ever been able to do it this way. I love the fact that now we can invite 9 candidates or 9 applicants back for some question and answers. And I encourage all of these 9 folks, which would be the VFW, the Road Wrestling, Ocean Shores Parks Conservation, Ocean Shores Marketing Coalition, Ocean Shores Lions Club, Convention Center, Mr. Lee, North Beach Independent Media, Butch, and the Hyack Reunion, Joseph Mays. I invite you all to come back. I'm begging you to bring your financials if you've ever received money from this board in the past, so that we have them well before our meeting on the 22nd. And I'm excited for the direction and how engaged all of you were. There wasn't any of you that needed prodding. You all were on top of it. I just can't thank you enough. This is such an important part of our city, and it's going to become more and more important as we move forward. And sometime in the next decade, we're not gonna have a bond payment. How exciting is that to have an extra few $100,000? We'll have maintenance issues, but this meeting is gonna be even more important in the future. So we will work on things that were brought up, on paperwork that we're asking from people, and the final paperwork. We'll work with the attorneys to make sure we have we're moving this in the right direction and make it easier for everybody, and also that'll make it easier for us when we're seeing things. So
And when is the next meeting in time?
meeting would be Monday, the 22nd of April, and
Noon to 5.
from noon to 5. Because of what we've done, I'm guessing it's probably at, actually, we're gonna start it, I believe George had an issue, needed to start it at 1. Is that correct, George? Is noon okay for you? Is noon okay for you, Sarah, or would you rather wait till 1?
No, noon's fine.
Okay, so we'll start at noon. I'm going to suggest that we probably can get it done in less than 3 hours, because we're gonna give the people, we're gonna have questions and answers for some of them. Today has gone an hour and a half, so, man.
Do you have so when I send out stuff, like even for council, presentation wise, do you have like a time limit or anything like that that you want emphasized to these applicants? Because that then they can build their presentation around that, sometimes is helpful.
So I think it would be important that the applicants keep it less than 5 minutes.
Mhm.
And that will allow us, potentially 5 minutes or so of back and forth questions
Okay.
possibly. We've already read their application, so they don't need to just read it to us.
And they will get the questions that have been,
Right, so I just encourage them to come with, quite honestly, even a couple of minutes to talk about their event, because we don't need them to read what they've already given us. And then that gives us a little more time for question and answer, but we need to keep this next meeting,
streamlined.
well under 3 hours. And, it should be fine with 9 applicants. I agree, but we didn't do much question and answer anybody today, so,
No,
yeah, 2 hours.
A lot of opinions though, so that's.
Yeah, no, it was great. I really appreciate it. And again, $607,000+ of requests with 245,000 worth of budget. I think you all did a great job at narrowing it down, and I can't thank you enough. I entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second, go ahead, make the motion.
I think, Mary, that was a second.
Mhm.
Yes, it was, until I turned on my mute.
We are adjourned. Thank you.